With global unification and the newest BT21 set released, players around the entire world are cooking up different builds to get themselves ready for the competitive season. So let's go ahead and talk about those decks which performed well and also topped various events including local and larger scale ones. Right now the meta is incredibly diverse, where we got a couple of decks that has seen quite a bit of representation as well as consistent performance. And then there's another layer just right underneath it where it's all the other decks that are also yielding decent results. So today I want to talk about all of them and also which ones that you guys should definitely want to look out for. Starting with what I think is the most popular deck to play throughout the BT20 and BT21 format is Royal Knights. The build includes many red cards for removal with Jesmon, Jesmon GX, all the different Gammamons that you can list out, the one from BT13, the newest promo one, Medieval, and even Crimson Mode as a ace counter. Alphamon Orican for massive DP reduction, which is one of the best cards out there that can instantly deal with Magna X as well as tons of level 6s out there. The memory gaining effect can boost plays during your own turn or even limit the opponents during theirs. There's also lots of blockers for defense with Magnamon, Gankumon, Craniamon, Omekamon, Lord Knightmon to redirect attacks, and the BT13 Alphamon to stop the opponent's big boss Digimons from attacking the player. The goal is to control the board until the time is right to pop off with your BT13 Omnimon to win games. Otherwise, you can use Omni X to make huge comeback plays alongside with Omekamon. In the later stages of the game, when you have lots of cards in both players' trash, you can use Omni X and then hard drop the Crimson Mode Ace together, and even if the memory gauge passes to your opponent's side, you can use the end of turn of Omni X to give your Crimson Mode Rush and swing and burn through all the remaining security, going for the game-winning play. Despite playing all the strongest level 6s out there, the deck's biggest weakness are Floodgate rookies that prevent you from reducing your play cost. Therefore, we see players tech in the option cards such as Queen Device as well as Wargramon Ace to deal with wide boards just to get rid of them. Some of the weaknesses of this deck is sometimes it can be rather slow, where you're just outpaced by other fast aggressive decks as they take down your security before you're able to do anything else. Even with having a variety of different cards in your deck, you're not always going to have the perfect hand to answer your opponent's board depending on the matchup. But that's where you can spice things up, as one of the most fun aspects of playing Royal Knights is that you can deck build and tailor and choose so many different Royal Knight trade cards that are accessible from the card pool, so that you can even include irregular additions to surprise against your opponents. I always see Royal Knights as a very good competitive deck because it constantly gets support from both directly and indirectly, especially with BT23 Hacker Slumber that's coming in later down the year. I'm definitely excited to see what other Royal Knight cards it's going to bring to the table. If you want to see more deck lists and discussion videos like these, make sure to subscribe and stay tuned for more, because I cover all the best decks from every new set and format as well. And if you want to see even more deck lists before everyone else, make sure to join the AVAULT Club, because I cover future sets and updated builds that I currently work on. Next up, I want to talk about Sakuyamon, which I personally would consider it being the best deck of the current format. That is because we have seen it top and win many different events so far. The archetype is known to climb up the line super quickly thanks to being able to cheat out the plugin cards. It also plays out tokens to create a wider board which can be used for blocking, for defense, or rush to attack. It has DP reduction for removal with the BT17 Sakuyamon, Pause Plugin P, and the inherited effects as well. It has access to powerful level 7s that are yellow, where most players right now have settled for Shine Greymon Ruin Mode and Chaosmon Volder Arm. Ruin Mode is to control the board and delay turns with its blanket minus 5000 DP. Volder Arm is to make the OTK attacks by chunking down the opponent's security 2 at a time as you synergize with Sakuyamon X Antibody to unsuspend as you dish out an option card to get into it, and then afterwards you use the tokens to finish off the game. One of the biggest weaknesses that I think this deck has is that sometimes you're not able to establish and climb up effectively with your first stack, and if you're not able to, you pretty much exert zero amount of pressure against your opponents, leaving a vulnerable stack that they can easily out and get rid of so that you don't have as strong as a comeback play. On the other note, we already got the news that we'll be getting a advanced deck set for Sakuyamon, and that really piques my interest on whether if it would make the deck even stronger than it currently is, or would it fundamentally change the entire playstyle of the deck. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think, but with that coming soon, we can definitely expect that this deck is still going to be relevant for quite some time. Now I want to talk about a deck that recently got a lot of hype and started topping a lot of regionals, and that is Megidramon. It is incredibly fast at building up the line and feeling cards into the trash. It uses Wargramon to reduce the evolution cost of getting into your Megidramon from your hand. As you attack, Megidramon deals 2 checks at minimum, and then you can even bump it up to 3 checks if you ever have Wargramon X in the stack as the inherit effect. After the attack, Megidramon nukes the entire field, including itself, where then you can also trash 1 more security from the top of your opponent, which you can get rid of a total of 4 damage in 1 single turn. Once the stack is deleted, the main cards you want to play back from the trash would be your EX4 Rush Gallantmons to finish games off. Otherwise, in the later stages, you can even start playing Gallantmons, both the BT13 and the promo one, to also rush for game. Digimon I Design can help you climb up for free as you get to go up your first line after the nuke. So far we've seen two slight different variations when it comes to building Megidramon, where one of them is to utilize the Analog Youth, which I also originally included into my build. The idea is to help set up trash quickly and also search for your pieces, but whenever your Megidramon stack is deleted, you can suspend it to gain a memory back, keeping your turn and also hatching an egg so that you can establish another stack ready to go in the back for the following play. As for the other variation, we've seen players disregard the Analog Youth entirely and decide to fully focus on option cards to gain memory, such as Gravity Crush, Jack Raid, and Memory Boost Delays, with an approach to OTK the same turn after Megidramon is deleted. I think this deck is fantastic to pick up, especially if you're a new player, because it has a straightforward strategy and win condition. And I'm really thinking that this deck will get even better as time comes, because I'm really hoping that we'll be getting new Chaos Gallantmon future support with the upcoming sets. So definitely make sure to give this video a like if you're also hoping for that to happen too. Since we talked about Megidramon, I also want to quickly cover its good counterpart, which is Gallantmon. It's gotten slightly less popular over time just because I think the players right now are trying to cook more with Megidramon, but regardless, it's still a fairly strong deck because it proves itself by winning the regional in France. Goes really hard when you can build a powerful stack with a lot of inheritables. It's easy to pick up for new players as well, and it has a simple goal with the traditional play mechanic of trying to digivolve up your levels 3s, 4s, and 5s, and 6s. The build hasn't changed much since BT21, just because most of the cards that were designed for it was specifically for Megidramon, but I have seen some players include the BT21 Gammamon just to help out with draw power to boost the consistency by a bit on the bottom end. And then there's also the promo Gallantmon, which you can include based on your personal preference. As we move on, I also want to talk about the Imperialdramon deck just to see how well they're doing so far, starting with the blue-green version. The deck has stayed meta relevant for quite some time, almost an entire year, ever since it got the BT16 support. I've covered this deck multiple times on the channel, being one of the main decks that I personally play. But just to give you guys an overview, it's an aggressive playstyle deck that can make multiple attacks by unsuspending with jamming. It has powerful control tools for the top end level 6s that can help you adapt into different matchups and situations. This deck currently still tops events, but not as much as before, so I'm wondering if the starter deck Stingmon being restricted down to 1 actually affected the consistency and the speed of it as much as it did. Or otherwise would be the player base where there's just more hype for new decks at the moment, which cause it to have less representation. Other than that, there isn't really much new cards that you can add into the deck, aside from the BT21 Digimon that you can suspend down any of the opponent's Digimon. Itself has piercing, it can gain DP, which is effective at removing smaller bodies in the early game, and also just to deal with 1 extra damage. But some players may not like the piercing aspect as much because you can risk into being forced to armor purge when you check into the opponent's security, which you don't want to because you'd rather save your level 4 so that it can DNA into your Imperialdramon as a follow-up. Which is why I can still see some of the players prefer sticking to the good old BT8 Digimon just to mainly take down the opponent's floodgates instead. The only real downside to this deck is not seeing your pieces to pull off your DNA combos quick enough, where bulk of the snowball power really comes from the Davis and Ken Tamer because they constantly let you play your searching rookies to find and gather what you need. Establishing on the board in the very first turn is night and day because it can help you excel your win condition so much faster. As for the evil counterpart, there's definitely Virus Imperial that I want to talk about, and as some of you guys may know, this is my current go-to deck for competitive play. Similar to the blue-green Imperial deck, it can deal lots of damage with aggression, but instead you use 1 single stack. My favorite full line of combo is to go into BT16 Dino B, play out the BT20 Imperialdramon, rush attack with it, make another attack with the BT16 Dino B, and then DNA into either Dragon mode just to wipe out the opponent's board, and then turn into a fighter mode as you attack with it, trashing the top card of your opponent's security stack, and dealing 2 checks, which is pretty much going to get rid of all the remaining security. You can then follow up with a self-deletion option card such as Calling from Darkness or Demonic Disaster to then play out your BT16 Wormmon from your hand and climb up all over again into a BT16 Dino B and then finish it off with a last swing, winning you the game. As an advanced tip, there are certain ruling restrictions and interactions when it comes to this deck, and a lot of it actually depends on where you're at with the memory gauge, and that is why I focused my build onto having more boosts for the early game consistency to find the pieces, and also the ST60 map, which allows me to have better control on how much memory I want to have during my turn. I have a feeling that the deck isn't represented as much because of the promo Shadramon problem, which is still relatively pricey, but I definitely would keep my eye out because with the new special event pack in circulation right now, I've been starting to see the price go down slightly bit by bit. So that sums up for the most popular decks that we've seen topped in the large scale tournaments, and then now there's a layer beneath it where all the other decks lie, which we have seen it top and also win at the store regional level. And starting off, I want to talk about the all new adventure archetype with the latest starter decks. Starter decks are always the best entry points for new players to get into the game, and by adding extra cards from BT21, you can upgrade the adventure deck to make it even more competitively viable. It has many tools and effects since it is a multicolor deck. It has search, draw, recursion to grab the cards that you want back, tamers to give value within memory, and your level 4s can go into your level 5s for free. Level 5s is a spot where you can really spice things up and tailor the build to your own playstyle because there's so many different removal effects to choose from. Level 6s with Wargreymon and Metal Gurumon Ace can threat against your opponents and counter with strong removal effects. There's also the promo Wargreymon that you can include for even more damage, defense, and deletion as well. Our Courage United is a very powerful tool to interact with your opponent's turn and further disrupt them if they ever threaten to remove your level 5 or higher adventure trait Digimon. Overall, I think this is a very solid deck to pick up, although we haven't seen it top much at the moment, and I think the major reason is because the deck actually kind of lacks a little bit of consistent draw power in the lower end, or at least not enough. Yes, although there are tons of cards that draw you cards at the moment to begin with, such as Palmon, Our Courage United, the Secret Rare Tamer Tai, but even with those cards, there are times that I feel like that you just don't have all the pieces in hand to go for explosive plays that could have helped me gain huge advantages during the course of the game, or even just to close out for the game-winning play. Perhaps another round of support just to fix those issues, and once they are solved, I am very confident that this deck will become top tier, and we know for sure the new support is coming, and it's just really a matter of what kind of effects they bring to the table for the archetype. If any of you guys played back in BTA, you would know that the Armor Rush deck is a VMon classic, as it can high roll against your opponents and deal tons of damage with security out of nowhere with your armor level 4s. Well, that archetype makes a comeback in BT21. We got a whole new set of VMon armor cards with Flamedramon, Lydramon, and Magidramon. There's also a new Davis that helps trash the level 4 armors yourself, and then comboing with the new option card to digivolve back into another one for free. The idea is to get into your Magidramon, unsuspend as much as you can so you can dish out attacks, and then use Fire Rocket as soon as possible to increase your damage output in one go. The deck can still go into Magna X if you ever need to, just to establish a strong level 6 on the board that can do it all. We've seen this deck done pretty well at a local level when BT21 first came out, but I think over time most players caught on that this deck does run out of gas and steam fairly quickly as you're capped out eventually, and it has a really hard matchup, especially against control-based decks. But if you want to have some fun with a deck that is easy to learn for beginners, consider picking up Armor Rush. Galacticmon is another deck that we've seen a surge of popularity in the competitive scene lately. This is because the card Ragnarok Cannon itself is an absolute menace. The idea is to use your Venmons to climb up into your Snatchmon, Destramon, and then Galacticmon. The unique thing is that you can play up to 50 copies of the BT11 Venmon, which makes it one of the most unique archetypes out there as you deck build. By adding more Venmons to trash and adding them back underneath Galacticmon, you get to use Ragnarok Cannon for free. Once the setup is complete, you can achieve a 100% win condition by trashing all your opponent's security until they have one left. As you attack with your Galacticmon, you can unsuspend it by comboing it with the BT18 Snatchmon and BT18 Zenith. The amount of pressure that this deck exerts against your opponents makes it fairly tricky to play around. Whether if they're not able to remove your stack or survive for one more turn, you simply win. The newer cards help boost the consistency of the deck with Search, with helping it to reach its win condition way faster. There's also tons of removals, attack control, and protection, which makes the Galacticmon stack not easy to get rid of. However, the archetype does suffer in speed and sometimes have hiccups during the course of the game, and it can especially lose against fast-paced decks that have a lot of aggression, which can win even before you can set up your Galacticmon on the board. But for those who have seen the Liberator webcomic, you guys will know once Ragnarok Cannon and Galacticmon is out, that was exactly how Zenith was able to sweep the floor against Owen right in the beginning of the very first chapter. The next deck that I think has quite a bit of potential is Gammamon. Although it hasn't seemed to be performed as well in the West, I noticed it actually topped a lot more in Japan and in China at a local level. This could possibly be because they play a best of 1 format compared to us, which play best of 3, which could be a huge factor to keep in mind. BT21 gave the archetype very good support, and the colors that this archetype tend to focus on is red and purple, but you can choose to go multicolor with your level 4s and some of your level 5s. That is because the deck has the ability to mimic effects with anything that has Gammamon in its name, and that is where the level 4s can provide you additional toolbox effects, which is pretty much like additional inherited effects. But most builds that I've seen so far from the East tend to focus more on just the red and purple stuff to go for a deletion based and recursion playstyle. It has lots of removal in the form of deletion effects, raid, retail, and forcing attacks with collision to control the board. The amount of memory gain is insane once you have both the RBO1 and BT21 hero established together. Siriusmon from BT21 is your main damage source as it has security attack +1, but with all those tools, I still think the deck is lacking a little bit in speed to close out games, which is why I think it's not performing as well currently. If we ever get more support that allows the BT21 Siriusmon to unsuspend, it can accelerate the damage output of the deck, making it way more powerful and possibly become top tier. One of the decks that I currently think that is very underrated where not many players talk about is Examon. The reason why I think you should be more wary of this deck is because it has one of the best control tools out there. The main focus is to DNA into Examon with 2 level 6s, and it may seem difficult to achieve, but the level 5s themselves can also be treated as level 6s for the DNA requirements. The new Dracomon X from BT21 also helps boost getting into your level 4s for free to preserve your memory, and it also allows you to have the end of turn DNA inherit effect, which is what the deck always needed. By going into Examon, the one from EX3, you can establish a strong board and also play out another level 6 alongside with it. The game plan is to suspend down the opponent's Digimon and unsuspend yourself as you attack over them, or block their attacks as they attack into you, where the EX3 Slayerdramon can also force your opponents to attack. There's also Examon Ace, which is a counter by having a ton of keywords alone. Whenever you need to, you can further secure your win condition and board control by going into Examon X. The big dragon can deal damage with the inherent effect of Wingdramon as it provides security attack +1, or trash the opponent's top security with the Grounddramon inherent effect as you win your battles. The only downside of this deck is gathering all the pieces that you need to DNA into Examon, and especially in the early stages of the game, it definitely takes a couple of turns and you definitely need to be patient with it. Furthermore, you can't always build the optimal stack with the best inherited effects, so you have to accept it and play with what you have. Whether you choose to play this deck or not, I still highly recommend you guys to study the Examon cards and learn all the interactions that your own main deck would have against it, just in case. Hunters make a comeback all the way from BT12 when it first debuted, and it mainly has a purple base that features Gumdramon, which digivolves into Arrestdramon. It also includes several other colors where most cards can work together as long as they have the keyword save in its text. By establishing as many tamers as possible with different colors, the archetype can digicross to reduce its play cost, and as well as reduce the evo cost to get into Arrestdramon's superior mode as soon as possible. With that, you want to make aggressive attacks without the need to suspend. The old one from BT12 has one of the best removal effects in the game, as it tucks your opponent's Digimon away under another one of their Digimon or tamer, and the more different color tamers you have, the higher level you can tuck away. Whereas the new Arrestdramon from BT21 can gain a ton of DP, raid, and pierce, helping you take down big bodies from the opponent's side, where you can also attack without suspending when you digivolve into it. The speed is certainly there, but one of the things that I think this deck might be slightly lacking is still the damage, where you really want to have Watchmaker present in order to make impactful attacks to accelerate your win condition, and is not as reliable just by having only one card within the whole archetype to do the job. I know based on the show that there is a Brave Snatcher version of Arrestdramon, and we have yet to still see that come in the card form for the game, so that is definitely something that we can look forward to as potential future support. And by simply getting a new boss Digimon, it can easily turn the deck even better than it currently is, especially in the top end. It gives us a better payoff when we get into it. As I mentioned from the beginning of the video, we still got tons of decks to cover and we're still not done yet. This is where I want to cover some of the older decks, which we have seen starting to make a bit of a comeback, and the first one I want to talk about is Ancient Garurumon. This deck was very popular back when BT17 came out. It can quickly bounce your opponent's Digimon and security to hand. Comboing can be quickly done by digivolving into Kendo Garurumon on top of a Tamer, attack with it, and then digivolve into Lobomon, which then allows you to warp into Ancient Garurumon from BT17. Although the stack gets deleted at the end of the turn, you get to recycle your own hybrid pieces and play a Tamer back out. The fundamental of the build hasn't changed much because you want to run a red Rookie Rush engine with Ukomon, which can chip down the opponent's security quickly. Meanwhile, you have floodgates to stop your opponents from doing certain things, such as playing by effects with Gotsumon, gaining memory with Shamamon, and also reducing their play costs with Solarmon. It also has quick draw power as well, thanks to Koromon and Muchomon, so that you can reliably get into your combos over and over. Another hybrid deck that has a very similar playstyle, this is where Dustmon returns back from the dead. Even though the ban list did hit Matt from BT2, which completely stopped the deck from being able to loop Dustmon from the trash and also spamming Jack Rays to gain a ton of memory. But the deck still finds its way back by filling in with other purple Tamers, such as the Starter Deck 16 Mat as the new memory setter, but also help you gain memory as you trash cards from the hand. You can also increase the number of the BT18 Koichis to help you cycle your Dustmons back from the trash. And then you can also play the 2-cost Mimi to help you gain additional memory whenever option cards are used. The Dustmon and Velgomon combo remains the same, as it can be easily executed to clear the opponent's Digimon that they have on the board, and also play your Tamers upon deletion back from trash, which is pretty much just like Ancient Garurumon. It also runs all the other Ukomons with purple rookies, Gabumon to help you gain memory at the starter main, as well as the floodgates such as Gazi and Psyche. Thanks to the new BT21 Imperialdramon and promo Gallantmon, there are even more ways to dish out attacks aggressively to help you close games. When the ban list back in March was effective, Mirage Galgamon from BT11 was hit to 1, which completely got rid of the memory spamming strategy. Ever since then, I've been working on a build by switching the spotlight towards Hexablaumon, which is one of my personal favorite Digimon, alongside with Invisimon to help support it as another additional level 6 instead. Rather than calling it Mirage, this is more of a blue good stuff build, which compiles many of the best blue cards out there and put them together to make a deck. I think that the core engine, which includes Galgamon and the Floodgate rookies, as well as Hwankunmon, is still very usable because it can help you draw cards and find your pieces quickly. Invisimon is great for board control and removal because it can de-digivolve the opponent's Digimon, while Hexablaumon can freeze down the opponent's Digimon from suspending and become the main damage source, as it can deal 2 checks at a time and also unsuspend thanks to Hwankunmon. You can splash in blue level 7s to extend your removal even further, and I even decided to tech in 1 copy of Examon X just because I can delete things. For now, I'm still currently working on this build, but it has given me quite a bit of success at locals, so definitely stay tuned for more updates. If you want to learn more about every single deck that I covered in today's video with more in-depth guides on how to build and play them, make sure to check out the description box down below. Also, don't forget to get the newest Destined Partners playmat drop on the AVAULT store right now. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. You guys have a great day, great night, wherever you are. See you in the next video, and this is AVAULT signing out.